This is James's dinner for tonight. It's a pulp patty with coconut curry and kimchi. And Suits is quite boring. It's right now the dogs are listening to it.
Yeah, I do like the guy who looks like an overweight chipmunk, though.
Okay.
You know, balding kind of.
And I don't understand what mudding is. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
What context
Something
is
that
it?
it doesn't matter. It's
If
just
it's
a stupid
like
show.
building, it's
I'm
just
gonna fall asleep when I go back in after dinner. I'm gonna go to sleep to the rest of that.
Okay.
Don't care. It's not really.
So this is a term they use a lot or something.
No, it just doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk more about Gnosticism while James eats his food. It's cucumber juice, and that's your patty over there.
Okay. Oh, I gotta go get some bread. I'm gonna make a burger out of it.
If you like. First, study philosophy. Hermetist must travel intellectually. Hermetic student will eventually see and hear something and is reborn. Initiate becomes a god by achieving gnosis in God. Hermetists didn't have an elaborate myth. Jesus had no role to play in Hermetism. Shepherd of men. I am the poimandres, the intellect, ultimate God, loved human, eternal world of spirit. And then there's like, well, it's different than the others, the map of things. And I don't...
It's pretty complicated.
I find it interesting.
It's a little overpopulated by comparison to some of the other.
7 human beings came into existence first, androgynous, then had sexes. Some people love the body and others recognize themselves as divine and keep learning. Many believed Earth surrounded by heavenly spheres, usually 7 at the time. All of reality originates from the one, intellect and soul. Being originates from the one in diminishing levels. Each retain the shape like ripples in a pool, like a drop making circular ripples outward. God doesn't fall into material world. Matter is the result of God's thought. Material world isn't flawed. It's the visible manifestation of the soul that emanates it. At the heart of one, ourself is the one. We exist both within heaven and here on earth all of the time. We become distracted by material things, but should instead contemplate on our presence with the one. We don't have to wait to join the one. We could do so now. Even living without money required money. Everything that has its being in everything that is has its being in the one. Everything that is also good, more or less good depending on how close they are to the one. Bad is just a deficit of goodness. All is good or it wouldn't exist. Jan Blackus argued that we have fallen away from the one. The soul is fully descended from God. Jan Blackus sounded more Gnostic than Plotinus, but didn't agree with Gnostics on cause. He suggested rituals to help get closer to God. Numbers and sacred names drew on Egyptian religions. Lesson 21. Mani met divine twin when he was 12 years old. St. Augustine of Hippo was into Manichaeism. Ones who wash themselves. They followed the teachings of a book by Al-Khazai. Most modern scholars don't believe Al-Khazai really existed. Ritual purity. They circumcised, like Jews, but valued baptism. They regulated their food. They wouldn't eat any food that they didn't plant, grow, harvest, and prepare. Even their own food required ritual cleansing and water before it could be eaten. They baptized their food. Connections between body and spirit by baptizing body. In contact with evil, the demons would be expelled that way. People's health didn't vary if food wasn't baptized or not. That's what Mani found. So in 240, at the age of 24, Mani got a revelation from his divine twin. Mani was told to bring gospel of truth to people. Mani was a comforter. Paraclete, final messenger promised by God, Mani as seal of the prophets. And he was sent to unite the religions. So Jesus, Zoroaster, Buddha, Mani's supposed to unite those. So Mani traveled east. Age 58, Mani died for his message, was tortured. Mani felt Jesus had made mistake by not writing himself and not leaving instructions on how to run a church. I would argue he did. Mani was a dualist. There was both good and evil at heart. From beginning, there have been two realms, one of darkness and one of light. King of darkness saw light and wanted to rule it. And I have a whole lot of notes here, and they're going in all sorts of directions. Jesus, the splendor, came to Adam and Eve and had them eat from the tree of knowledge. Father of light only leads emanation of others in response to what darkness is doing. Adam and Eve didn't know they were light trapped in darkness. On the side of the King of Dark, the male and female rulers' desire for each other allowed them to ejaculate out seeds of a mixture of light and dark. So everything is dark with light in it, because darkness captured some light.
This Manny sounded like a happening dude.
He had an imagination. When Mani walked on grass, he could hear the cries of pain from within the light in the grass. Light of true self battles darkness of body. Manichaeisms were vegans. The elect did not make money like Christian monks. The hearers could get married and have sex. They had jobs and gave 10% of their income to support the elect. They fasted once a week, Sunday. And that just means they can't eat until after dark. And there was an annual fast, which was 30 days, again, not total.
Sounds like Ramadan.
Yeah, which led to holiest Manichaean festival, which commemorated Mani's death and return to heaven. This was called Bema. They ate after dark. The hearers did not go to the light after they died. They were reincarnated and, if good, born as elect. It was like a purity pyramid scheme. Sacred meal at heart of worship. The hearers brought the food, which they grew, to the elect. The elect were pure, so when they ate the food, the light would be separated from the darkness within their body. Then the light would be liberated, so they're burping or farting light into the kingdom of light, essentially.
No, that's your comment that it was like a pyramid scheme.
Yep.
Yeah.
The heavens produced, hearers produced and prepared the food, which caused pain to the light, but the light was freed by the elect's pure bodies. So they're not even cooking their own food. Light travels up and gathers at the moon. As the light of the moon grows, the light moves from full moon to sun. Sun's path is a function of light moving to the kingdom of light. So Manichaeism faded as Islam and Christianity grew. Lecture 22. Mary conceived by parents without the stain of original sin. All of us are unclean except Mary. Life of celibacy and purity can liberate us, according to Augustine. He never really escaped his Manichaeist path. He was a seeker and thought it was Manichaeism for a while that his path was. His mom had wanted him to be a Christian. He didn't think much of the Bible. It wasn't written as well as Cicero and was full of immorality, like multiple wives and concubines. He himself found a concubine and had a son with her. Problematic Old Testament. Augustine went to Milan in 384. He encountered writings of Plotinus there and heard Ambrose preach. Old Testament stories conveyed messages, but not to be taken literally. Manichaean God must not be all-powerful, since darkness was able to capture and trap some of the light. Why would an all-good and all-powerful God create evil? Plotinus, evil is a lack of good, a lack of existence. There's no wound without the body, he says. The wound is a lack of health within the body. So Manichaean, active evil. Augustus all is good, and then their evil is a lack of the good. So original sin and predestination. Our will is sinful and is turned away from God. You turned away from God at the beginning, in Adam. We inherited original sin from Adam and thus are born sinful. Lecture 23. Epiphanes had slanderous report of Gnosticism. He said that they ritualize sex and practice infanticide. But there's nothing like that in Gnostic texts, so that sounds like just a nasty rumor. Pagan myths, more like soap operas, Gnostic myth-making, who God is and how the world came into being. These myths not for entertainment. Mandeans along Tigris and Euphrates, dialect of Aramaic, one of the oldest still existing religions in the Middle East, Iraq. Myths of the Mandeans resemble those of Gnostics, Valentinus. The treasure is main book. Patahio made cosmos. Malki, rulers. They have a pool of flowing water called Jordan, after Jordan River. Sometimes Jesus is a negative character, sometimes good. See one's mind as a sapphire blue sky, a screen for God to project images on. Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. Ultimate God is unknowable, no end. Ein Sof cannot be fully comprehended. 10 sephirots, like eons. Shekinah, presence of God that humans can know. She's female, the last image of God. The 6th image is male though, so it varies. The Kabbalists gain more knowledge of God by contemplating the Sephirots. Everything comes from the Ein Sof. Lilith is the evil feminine parallel to Shekinah. Samael is Lilith's consort. Lecture 24. 15th century Ficino, 1499. Translation of text controversial, and then William Blake. Voices of Gnostics and Valentinians seemed largely lost. 20th century, one of the worst, but technical advancement. Who is real, who is not? How can we know if this world is the true one today? Philip K. Dick, 40 novels, 120 short stories, Total Recall, Blade Runner. Gnostic text gave him some ideas. Roman Empire never actually ended, according to Horse Lover Fat, a character in one of his books. Plasmade present in Jesus and laid dormant until 1945 when codices were discovered. Movies like Blade Runner and Matrix are expressions of Gnosticism in modern times. In the Matrix, the real is the material and the spiritual is not real, but the opposite is true in Gnosticism. Gnostics would say the idea of the table is more real than the material, since the material table will not last forever. And I would argue the idea is gone just like that. So it depends on whether, if I tell James the idea is there forever until he dies, and then it's gone. So this table is probably going to last longer than whatever idea pops into my head goes into his for storage, because it's not going to stay in mine. Anyway, ecclesiastical Gnostic conical Bible, celebrate Jesus and commemorate Valentinus and Carl Jung. Nag Hammadi texts, Manichaean and Mandean. So I guess if you want to learn more about Gnosticism, then look to ecclesiastical Gnostics. And I put some links up on the thing that I'm going to attach this to. So if you want to learn more about it, I have supplied some more links on the subject. And you know, I found some interesting things when I was doing the research. I found that it's not only, there's quite a few people that have different Gnostic sort of beliefs these days. It's there's a wide variety. So if you're at all interested, you might want to look into the subject, because there's a lot out there right now. And there might not be in 10 years or 20. I don't know. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, the knowledge that we have, and then we lose, and then we have again, and then we lose, and you have to wonder. I mean, really, I'm left wondering a lot about this subject, like these texts that existed But I mean, I haven't held the texts, so I don't really know that they have existed at all. I've been taught by this guy that, and I'm trusting that he has knowledge on the subject, and it seems like he does. And from what I've read elsewhere, it seems like this is the going belief or whatever. But I mean, I don't really know. That's really the question, isn't it? I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't there when I wasn't in the Garden of Eden. I have no memory of that, so I can't know anything about that, and I can't know anything about anything really when it comes down to it. So, I mean, you think that, like, I made this patty, and I think I know roughly what I'm eating here, but I really don't even know that, and I don't know how it's gonna. I don't really know that I'm here. So, and, yeah. But, anyway, you have to wonder why all of a sudden these things were discovered. Like, what makes something that lies buried for so long, all of a sudden be discovered and people talk about it, whatever. I mean, it's something